Happy to be here.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending. I'd like to call you to order the Kentucky Community and Technical College System Board of Regents Audit Committee, the most important committee of the entire board. And if Chelsea, if you would, as parliamentarian, please call the roll.
Yes. Chair Cox.
Here.
Vice Chair Hamilton. Regent Girdler. Regent Martin.
Here.
Regent McGraw.
Here.
Regent Powers.
Here.
Regent Schaus.
Here.
Regent Stevens.
Here.
Regent Sutherland. We have a quorum.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Chelsea. Appreciate it. Big times, KCTCS. I think a lot of momentum, a lot of great things happening. I think that's what makes the work of the audit committee even more important. The more successful we are, the more scrutiny that we're going to get, but we're going to welcome it at all angles and take it. Be very transparent and also be known for having one of the more active, robust audit committees around. So with that, let's approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which seems like it was forever ago, on November 26th. Are there any corrections to the meeting minutes? If none, may I have a motion to approve?
McGraw, move approval.
Thank you. Second?
This is Barry. I'll second it.
Thank you so much. And now, Chelsea will conduct the vote.
Are there any objections? Okay, we can do this by consensus. The motion passes.
Perfect. Todd, as Chief Financial Officer, I'd like to ask you to provide the update on the progress of the forensic audit response.
Certainly. So you all are aware the results of the forensic audit involved 10 areas where we needed to take a look. We are in the process of pulling that together in a corrective action plan. I have notes that I will create into a more formal report. We have about 15 pages of notes around the corrective action plan. But just to give you a sense of where we stand on each of these things, we do have activity and things that are happening in each one of them. We are working to develop the appropriate policies and deadlines for each of those policy creations in each area. In the foundation area, we're working with Megan Stith. Dr. Stith is spending time with the foundations to try to make sure that we provide guidance without providing necessarily oversight, because they're independent institutions. We are working on executive compensation, which was discussed in executive session with the presidents just this week at the president's leadership team meeting. FERPA compliance. We've been discussing the various pieces of that with the system registrars, providing annual notices, communicating updates, and making sure that we are in compliance on all FERPA areas. On the financials, we're digging into the detail right now of what has actually occurred and where some of the processes found a point of weakness. That's under review. We expect that we will have some guidance, giving them a May 1st deadline to establish the action plan completely. And I could go into great detail about any one of these. The one that I really do want to highlight for you all had to do with the carry forward that was actually not part of the formal forensic audit. But we have established a team that's looking at the fund where these carry forward funds have lived. That's called Fund 99. That working group has been meeting since the first of the year, and they're doing great work. I got a preliminary report today, asked for a few revisions to that. They're going to propose some recommendations around our reserve policy and how we manage those reserves. We want to be very transparent with our carry forward and make sure that we're very open with those things. But I want to make it a point that at each one of our audit committee meetings, you know that we're taking the recommendations of the forensic audit seriously, and we're addressing every one of those recommendations. And we will have quarterly reports. We're still, as I say, we're still working on the written format of what that looks like. So it's simplified and easy to digest. But I did want to report to you as a committee that we've been working really diligently on this since our December meeting, and teams in a number of areas are all coming together to try to pull that all in line. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. But I think the high level view is we've got different committees and working groups trying to pull all this together and address all the recommendations of the committee. And the deadlines are somewhat varied depending on the amount of work that has to be done with each.
So thanks, Todd. Is there an intent on our part that at the next Regents meeting that we'll take some time on the agenda to go through what those 10 are, the progress around them, or what are your all's thoughts about how we take this information to the full board?
We've been considering that at the next meeting of the audit committee, we would have some preliminary, something more formal, and some areas where we're demonstrating this to you in writing that would go to the June board meeting. If you'd like us to prepare something for the March board meeting, we can certainly do that if that's the will of the Regents.
No, I'll speak and then let others. My only concern is I think it's important that in some way we provide the update to the full board on the record that this work is taking place, and the completion of it will be brought to audit committee in April and then reported to the full board in June. And kind of while I'm asking the question, the next one on that is, what is the public nature of this from the standpoint of reporting results? Are we going to be, I guess, forward, transparent with, we've looked at these things and here's what we've done? Is this a document that gets filed that is then a public document? And I know that's a lot of questions, but the first part of it is I think we ought to at least make the board aware of it at our next meeting in March with what our timeline is. And then the second is thinking about an external communication strategy, if we need one, about how we communicate. Because I think we have done and are doing a great job on this. And our best strategy on this is to be transparent and very proactive with the public about what we've done and where we are. That, Ryan, you probably need to comment on that. I might be pushing an envelope that now just went over into management from trustees. So push me back.
Not pushing the envelope. Transparency is key here. Auditors are our friends. So short answer is yes, update at the March meeting with other policy adopted at the June meeting as well, particularly around the reserve policy, et cetera. Number two, we're keeping our legislators informed. They are aware of the forensic because they helped pay for it. But unlike the state audit, there's not a reporting requirement back, unless I am corrected, and if I'm wrong, please do, back to, say, the state auditor. And so I think that our public meetings, keeping the legislature informed, and then publicly praising the fact that we're curing observations along the way is the strategy right now.
Great answer. Any other regents have any questions about this? This is kind of a big deal.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In reference to the carry forward, Todd, I think that it is important that when you get those recommendations, there is a discussion not only in the audit committee but also the full board, as the chairman says, because that's been an area that has really been concerned and we got zapped on. So I know we're going to develop some guidelines, but I would just encourage that not only the audit committee have that and an opportunity to review it, but each and every board member before we do that in June. Thank you.
Yep.
Well said.
Yep. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, that's absolutely our intent. We want to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing. And I know there's been a lot of question around that, and we're digging in to make sure we fully understand it. We can report with all transparency to the board and to all of our constituents.
Great. Any other regents have any questions on the forensic audit? Very good. So it's always important to look at the future and what we want out of an audit committee from a charter perspective and what recommendations we want to make to the Board of Regents related to the scope of work and how we're going to involve Dean Dorton and our own folks inside to take a look at the internal aspects of the upcoming period of time. And these things have changed through the years. I've noticed as I read this one and what's being proposed here, they've become a whole lot more specific as to purpose. So I'm going to turn it back over to Todd and to Dean Dorton, who's going to walk through the changes that are being recommended to the audit committee charter. And then we'll have some discussion about if there's other things that need to be altered or added. And we'll talk about it from there. So Todd, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think on this particular area, when Dean Dorton can speak to the motivation behind what's driving this, I think my first response when I read this was I wanted to make sure that we still maintained a good and positive working relationship with our auditors. I think we go to them with questions that we have. We try to ask them for their advice and counsel before we make decisions, so we make wise decisions and don't have to go to them with problems that we've created somehow inadvertently. And so they've been very responsive to that. I believe that the charter that they've proposed here tries to deal with some issues that they're facing as far as industry-wide is concerned and assuring the right reporting relationships are well documented. And so we're very supportive of that. We appreciate our internal auditors. And so Jody and Lance, I will turn it over to the two of you to talk through the charter.
Thank you, Todd. And I'll just start. One, Lance Mann with Dean Dorton. I think I've talked to everybody on this call at some point. Jody and I kind of lead the work together. We're very grateful for the opportunity to serve KCTCS. I know we have two documents to talk to you about today. We'll start with the charter, see what questions you have, and we do have a formal report for you today at some point as well from Q2 of 2025. So Jody, I'll let you go through the charter and the reason why we're proposing some amendments to that.
Yes, basically the internal audit charter, as Todd very well explained, sets out the relationship between our organization and management and the board. The changes are being kind of brought on by the Institute of Internal Auditors, which is the governance organization that I follow with regards to the work that we perform, recently updated their global internal audit standards, wanting to ensure that these documents and our standards in general are ensuring the best and the brightest are performing this work to give the very high quality results to managements and the board across the globe. So these changes were kind of instigated by them and pretty much just spell out and sort of expand on charter that we had in the past. The couple of highlights in this is with regards to the mandate. So the mandate is a portion of the charter that kind of just spells out that we are an independent group of individuals performing these systematic reviews at the benefit, at the request of management and the board in concert with each other, so that we have access to the information we need to look at the high risk areas and to report back on those. It gives us the authority, it kind of documents the authority that we have to that we have full unrestricted access to the information that we need. Our audit plans are approved by the board or through the audit committee as well as management. We work in concert with them to ensure that we're meeting their expectations. It discusses the relationship to ensure that we maintain independence, that we do have a direct line to the audit committee, via the audit committee's charter, so that if we ever do come across something that we feel like we need to bring straight to them, we have that authority to do that. And it also talks about the importance of internal auditors in implementing quality assessment programs to ensure that the work that we do is aligned with those standards and can provide comfort. And not only are we doing it, but once every 5 years, we need to have kind of like a peer review done on our work to ensure that we are complying with those standards. So that's the role of the charter. And if there's any questions on that, I'm happy to take those.
Yeah, said simply, and Jody and Lance, thank you so much. Jody and I had a good conversation yesterday, about the changes that are in here and the intent of what's there and why it is there. I guess I would stress to the committee that this is our document. This is what we, independent of anyone else, ask Dean Dorton to actually perform for us. And I think that's an important distinction. This is not a internal document from the standpoint of how we typically think of internal documents. This is very much a governance charter for what our expectations are. So it's important for us to pay attention to it. Jody or Lance, can you talk a little bit about one of the pieces that's changed in there, this whole idea of a mandate? Can you all talk a little bit about why that is and what we should read into that?
Yes, I think in the past, a lot of times organizations would use the templated document and kind of just write those things down and put it in front of an audit committee, put it in front of management, and internal audit would sign it. The mandate is making us more intentional to have the conversation. So I had conversations with Dr. Quarles, I had conversations with Todd, had conversation with Russ to make sure that we're in agreement of what our charge is and that we're documenting that in the charter. So that's, I think governing the IA governance is wanting to make sure we're having more intentional conversations.
Yeah, and if the document spells out everybody's roles and responsibilities quite well, the only other question that I would appreciate you talking to us a little bit about is the intentionality around independence here.
Yes.
And are there things as a committee that we should know or do that would make us state of the art as it relates to how that whole idea of independence should be handled?
Yeah, so the charter definitely lays out the fact that we report to the audit committee as well as the executive management through our establishment of the charter and in the work that we do, so that so it's important for us to remain independent and not be doing management functions and being sure that we can look at areas that we're reviewing independently and objectively, and then report those results to you. So I think some of the cadence that we've created, I know since I've been here, is having, reporting to you all quarterly the results of our audits. So that's, definitely a important document so that we're moving forward, having you approve the plan that we propose to you based on the risk assessment that we're performing. In addition to, Todd and I meet on a monthly basis as we report on the monitoring of the corrective action plans that management put in place. We don't just make the corrective action suggestions and then just leave them. We're monitoring them and making sure they're moving forward, having conversations one-on-one with Chairman Cox, to make sure that we're mindful of the open records review, but at the same time, we're able to have confidential or conversations about concerns or things that come up. Our plan is flexible. Again, management can come to us and say, hey, we've got some concerns, and we've got the flexibility to make that. And so I think that independence is like key to doing that. And this charter kind of sets that out, and our position, reporting to the audit committee as well as management helps maintain that independence as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Any questions that any of the regents have as related to the audit committee charter and the proposed changes that were there? Great. So,
Hey, Russ, I think somebody has their hand raised, Russ.
oh, I'm sorry. I am so bad at looking at that thing with the hands up. So please go ahead. Regent Shouse.
About the charter, it's not going to change the quarterly updates, is it? Are we going to get updates or just?
Yes.
And to give you some background on the charter that I don't think we went over is when we came in as the internal audit department, so to speak, one of the things we recognized was that KCTCS didn't have an internal audit charter at the time. So we worked with the audit committee at the time. There actually wasn't an audit committee either back then. This has been about 4 years ago. And so we worked with KCTCS on establishing an audit committee as best practice and then adopting an internal audit charter. And we used the IIA standards in place at the time. And the revised is, so it's not that we're implementing something new, we're updating it to be in line with current standards, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that
Thank you.
communication is key. So we definitely would keep that up.
Jody,
Thank
in
you.
reference to your comments, so I'm assuming if you find a red flag, it is immediately reported to management, and then the chairman of the audit committee would be informed about that if it's a severe thing, so that it is totally independent. Is correct?
Correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
That is unless the finding is directly
Well,
related to Dr.
to me.
Quarles or Todd, in which case we'd probably go directly to Russ for
Yeah.
advice.
Good point of
Thank you.
clarification. Yeah.
Exactly the case. Okay. No other hands, any other comments? So we have a motion that the Board of Regents Audit Committee recommends the Board of Regents accept the changes to the Audit Committee charter proposed by Dean Dorton. So do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll
Thank you, sir.
second.
Thank you. All right, Chelsea, back to you.
Okay, we're going to do this by roll call because it's not a routine action item. Chair Cox,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton, I don't believe has joined. Regent Girdler, on. Regent Martin. Regent Martin still on. Regent McGraw,
Yes.
Regent Powers,
Yes.
Regent Schaus,
Yes.
Regent Stevens,
Yes.
and Regent Sutherland. Has he joined?
He is not.
Okay, we may need to come back to this because we only have,
I'm here.
oh, okay. Regent
I'm sorry.
Martin.
Yes,
All right, thank you. The motion passes.
apologize.
Okay, you saved us right at the end there, Barry. We appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
So we're at a point where I should ask if there's any other business that the committee needs to address. I've always expanded that by saying, I think it's
Excuse
really
me.
important. No, yes,
Chair Cox,
yes.
I think we skipped the internal audit for this quarter.
Report. Yes.
Yep, we do have a report to go over too.
I'm sorry.
The Q2 report.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to get out.
Sorry about that.
We love an efficient meeting too.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so we've included for your review our Q2 report that summarizes the details of 8 reviews that we've completed in the last quarter leading up to January 31st. We looked at 5 community colleges, as well as we finalized a documentation review. We finalized a return of Title IV funds, which was carried over from the prior year, as well as some key IT key control testing that included a review of backup, network management, user access, as well as user awareness training. So through that work, we found, the good news is we found no high-risk issues that were identified. We did find 3 moderate rated issues in the area of the documentation and then a couple of the return to funds procedures. And then we found like 15 low-risk items during some of our reviews. Some of them were, or several of them related to minor issues with I-9 form completion, but management is working on improving that, as well as I think one of the things I definitely want to note is that all the colleges demonstrated really a mature internal control environments and appear to be following system procedures very well. As I mentioned earlier, in addition to reporting on what we did, we also performed work on follow-up activities. So we had 19 action plans that we had been following that had, occurred in prior periods and were included on prior reports. Currently, there are still 16 that are in process that just haven't met their due date yet, and 3 of the 19 have been completed and fully implemented, and our conversation with management appears that implemented effectively. We are continuing to move towards completing the planned activities that were approved in the fiscal year 25 audit plan, including we're in the process of working on a human resource policy review, as well as student financial aid with the area of return to funds, which we seem to do every year, eligibility, as well as cohort default rate, as well as the IT reviews that are ongoing through our IT auditor. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Nothing?
Anything else? Joey, Lance?
No.
Sorry,
No,
I got
sir.
a little bit ahead of myself there. I was so anxious to get the new charter done.
Charter it
I
going.
gotta report up the old.
We just followed your lead. We just
Yep.
went with it.
Yeah, that's the case. So now we can talk about new business if there's any that needs discussing. And as I was about to say, I always use this time to say, as an audit committee member, if there's any question, anything at all that you'd like clarified, more information on, or just to talk about, this is the time, because this is a committee that should be able to ask the tough questions, should be able to report back to the board that we have been thorough. So I hate for people to hang up saying, I wasn't clear about that, or I wish I would have asked that. So I'll throw it out there. Is there anything else that we would like to talk about? And while you're thinking about that, Ryan, is there anything that you'd like to say before we close out here?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm going to save most of the updates for in 2 weeks when the Board of Regents meets. So don't forget, March 13th and 14th at the Versailles office. Just this morning announced a statewide transfer agreement with Western Kentucky University. So we're continuing to complete the comprehensives and regionals. We're in the middle of session right now. We'll have more updates for you in 2 weeks, but it's looking good that we'll unlock $90 million in capital construction projects, including one, Mr. Chair, at the Lou Med area, benefit JCTC. Enrollment is up. We're watching the activity in Washington, D.C. to see if any of the executive orders affect us. And the last thing I have is James Lee. We found out just yesterday that Madisonville Community College was the only Bellwether Award winner in the entire state of Kentucky for its efforts on workforce development at the college level. And we brought home a big trophy from San Antonio. And so Western Kentucky's making us proud.
Thank you. All that comments should go to Dr. Kelly and her staff. Great job.
Yep.
Any questions, thoughts, comments from Regents before we call it a productive and efficient meeting?
Mr. Chair,
Graciela?
I'll just make one comment if I could, real quick.
Yes, please.
To
do.
hear that this committee wasn't even in effect 4 years ago, it's very highly functioning, really great work. I like the format of the reports. I like the quarterly reports. So I think the team is to be commended for sort of that huge leap and the focus on this. So just really pleased to see that. Thank you.
Hey,
Russ,
Candace,
I just wanted to confirm that you'll handle the report at the board and you don't need Jody or I to attend the board meeting?
No, I think we'll be fine. I say that knowing that Todd will be my right hand there if we need something, and you all will be available should we run into any questions that we
Yep.
can't handle.
We're always happy to attend if it makes sense.
Appreciate it.
hey, Candace, I was going to say, don't don't give the chair any more to build his ego up. He won't be able to get out of his door.
I'm gonna say it was well deserved, though.
Well, the
I
funny
agree.
part about it is that everybody that I work with, very well-oiled machine in this regard, is one of the best assets that we can provide for KCTC.
Yeah, I feel like we have been very much fleshed over several times. So I think that it's time for us to actually make some good headway.
I do too, Barry. I think that's, it feels like that, getting that momentum shifted and back towards the great work that the faculty and the staff and the leadership team are doing for youth in our state and region is the better narrative than this garbage.
Yeah. You said it much better than I could, Russ. I think we're doing a really good job, and I do feel like the audits were necessary just to show that we are keeping the same mindset that everybody thinks we should be going in, and I really feel like now it's time for us to get to work and keep the audit committee, keep us well oiled, but I think we need to really focus on what we're here to do, and that's help with our staff, our students, and our community partners. So,
Great.
Absolutely. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. I think we've covered all the business that we needed to, and I think Chelsea, we can do that. How do you want to do that?
We can do that by consensus as long as no one objects to adjourning, but we do need a motion.
Motion?
I'll second.
Look forward to seeing everybody March, did you say 13th, 14th?
That's correct. Yep.
Very good.
see y'all then.
Thanks,
Good.
everyone. Appreciate your
Thank you.
participation.
Have a
Thank
great
you all.
day.
Y'all
Thank
have a
you.
good day.